My name is Betsy Krasnetsky, and I know some people in the room and some people I don't know. It's wonderful. I haven't been to a chapter meeting in quite some time. I'm sorry. Since I became involved on the state regulatory board, I was unable to serve on the AMTA Wisconsin chapter board. And
she misses us.
And I miss you, yes. So anyway, I've been a massage therapist for 31 years. I have a practice in Neenah. And I currently serve on the state regulatory board, which I think most of you are familiar with the general concept of, although sometimes I'm surprised by questions that people don't understand what it is. We are part of the Department of Safety and Professional Services. It's 7 people. 6 of us are massage therapists. There's slots on the board for 6 of us. Currently we need a couple of members. And then a public member, which is the case for all regulatory boards, professional regulatory boards. The Department of Safety and Professional Services has over 100 boards that they serve and have staff busy organizing meetings and organizing the website and making sure that everything is done legally correct. And their staff, the board members, are all appointed by the governor, whoever happens to be in office at the time when there's a vacancy. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit later. But one thing I really would like to tell you about is that as of, I believe it was April 11th of this year, we finally got through the first part of the administrative rules revamping, which was necessary because of our licensing law. You remember we upgraded from state certification to state licensure. And administrative rules, which are legally binding, but they describe in more detail things that are purposely left vague in the statutes. So the statutes for licensure passed in 2010 that was signed?
Yes.
Yes, finally. 3 years of my life. I was the chair for the legislative effort. Extremely interesting, extremely stressful. I was so happy that day that it was Governor Doyle signed that. But then, once the statutes are published and they officially become law, then the administrative rules have to be updated, and that's part of the work that we've been doing. Pardon?
Promulgated.
Promulgated, yes.
That's the word.
Promulgated, yes, thank you. It took me a while to get that word. I kept on seeing it. And so that's what we have been, in addition to processing complaints, working along with the staff of the Department of Safety and Professional Services, the legal staff, we were working on these administrative rules. And the first batch finally went through all the hoops, all the back and forth with the Legislative Reference Bureau and this little detail and that little detail, April of this year. The one that I think people are most concerned about, or that I get the most questions about, is the one about continuing ed. As you remember, the statute, in the state statutes, it said that we might have continuing ed required for renewal. Now we do have it required for renewal. For the profession. We have 2 new administrative codes that were added with this last batch. Keep going back. There are 2 ways to get to it, actually. So let's go back to Wisconsin Administrative Code. So again, the statutes are the laws, the administrative codes are the administrative rules. And in the search, we want MTBT, TBT, therapy, bodywork therapy, space, 7.
7?
Yes, the numeral 7.
Okay. And enter?
Mm-hmm.
Go.
So that is, I've placed a request for the website manager to, down at the department, to update our page, but it hasn't gone through yet. So we want that, yes. Here we go, continuing ed. Now, two, I would say, pertinent things are that we start counting on March. That's when you start accruing, March 1st. Not when you renew February 28th, but you start stacking them up to be presented when you renew on the 2017. You have 2 years. For AMTA members, this really isn't a problem because we do 24 hours every 2 years for our membership, our professional membership review, or not review, you know,
Requirement
renewal.
insurance, yeah.
Right, for our insurance. And the specifics of the Wisconsin renewal are that 2 of those 24 hours need to be ethics. Another, I'm sorry. Yes,
Is it going to matter what type of ethics class or just?
general ethics. No, it doesn't have to be like, I think the national certification is, it has to be boundaries.
Yeah.
No, it does not matter. Another thing that we've gotten questions about is this, that your first renewal, so that applies to students really who are just, or new people are, so say they get their license in April of 2015. Their first renewal will be February of 2017. What this means is they do not have to present continuing education on their first renewal because they're less than 2 years. They have less than 2 years to continue to complete that. It could have been stated a different way. This is the way that legal staff chose to state it. So the big concern, is also down on what are acceptable continuing education activities, which is down beyond 6, just down a bit. Oh, so you can get them from someone or from the following entities that would approve or provide, either way. As we know, so any of the schools in the state which are approved, which operate approved programs, institutions of higher learning, so for example, a technical college or what could that be, a university? And then any local, state, or national chapters of professional organizations that address improvement of the profession, including but not limited, that's the key. Not limited to. It doesn't have to be one of these. So say, for example, you have a specialty that is like very specific, even like the upledger, if you're a certified upledger practitioner, and you want to make sure that all of your continuing ed is in that, they are involved in addressing improvement of the profession. So it's much less limited than it looks. And the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards, they don't approve, or rather they don't provide, but they are working on approving, I believe, continuing ed. So you can do it in person, distance learning, audio-visual, audio recordings, professional literature review. It's meant to be really broad. What it's meant to do is exclude, I know that Lynn is really good at myofascial, that I'm not going to have Lynn sign a piece of paper that we spent 22 hours where she taught me what she knows about myofascial release. So then, I'm sorry, I don't have the citation, but elsewhere it talks about auditing. There will be just random audits of people, just like AMTA National does. So in other words, when you renew, you will not have to submit documentation of your continuing ed. but you will need to keep the documentation just in case you're audited. Yes?
Will they be asking us to list the classes we took, or just to say that we took
It'll
it?
be like an affidavit where you say that you did.
So Betsy, when we enter our stuff in the AMTA
Right,
website,
list. Correct.
you would just use that information?
Sure.
Okay.
Or, well, you'll be keeping documentation for the AMTA? Sure,
Yes.
you'll just be counting numbers.
You put it online.
Right.
You enter it online.
But it won't be that specific with Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Then a couple of other things that were added with this batch of rules was under MTBT, if we could go back to MTBT 1. And so not 7, but 1. Which,
No, just search, change your search.
under your search, just change your search to 1.
There?
Yes, should be. Was definition, under definitions. We have been lacking a definition of what is a client. People will ask, is a client someone who, do we have definitions? We should, sure, down here. Is a client forever?
6.
Oh, it's someone who you're working, it's number 6. You're working with them when you're done working with them, they're no longer a client or a former client. If they are under 18, then their parents or legal guardians are also clients. And if a person contracts for multiple sessions of treatment, like if they buy a package, they're still your client. This question comes up when people want to date a former client. How long are they clients? Some professions, I believe, psychotherapy, they have a very long period of time. Sam, are you a psychotherapist?
No, but
Were you? Yeah,
No,
that's,
but I
what is
did.
it, 2 years?
I'm
For attorneys,
familiar with that.
there's a window of time. This doesn't have a limit of time. Another thing, informed consent. Number 11. We added information about informed consent because there really was very little information in the law before. Yeah, it spells it out more clearly. And informed consent needs to be documented in writing. So this does not mean that every time somebody comes in your office, you have to have them sign an informed consent. That would be initially. However, for your own protection as a massage therapist, if you're changing therapies, and especially if you're doing something where you're close to intimate parts, as we all know, it's a very good idea to get written informed consent. But you can look at this yourselves. I don't mean to drag this up. I just wanted to point out that some of these things they were really necessary updates. And number 13, intimate parts. Oh, great, there's a limit, number 13.
There's a link to the statute.
We will put links to all of this in the next e-blast that will come out next week.
You may be pleased to see this. I was not when I saw it.
Do you want me to click through it?
Sure, go ahead. So, yep, it means the breasts. Of course, we know that as an intimate, but buttocks and the other things, of course, we do not deal with ever. And we had long discussions with the legal staff about this. However, we do work certainly on glutes.
Yeah.
Certainly. The helpful thing about this is that further on, it's, and that's number 23, if you go back.
Go back.
But go back to that other page.
To number 7.
Just through, yeah, within number 7. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it does come up a lot, and unfortunately with the complaints, there are many complaints about sexual boundary violations, either draping or physically getting too close. And this is worded kind of backwards, in my opinion, but again, it was the legal staff. You may not participate in a sexually oriented business. That's number 23, the top. And have your license, of course. And then here's number C, or rather sub C, is where it gives you the caveat that exposure of any person's intimate parts, which would be draping, of course, you can't do that and have your license unless it is necessary for legitimate massage therapy. So there is your, and bodywork therapy.
Betsy?
There is your, yes.
So the direct and indirect, is that saying whether they're undraped or
Exposure is draped versus undraped, right?
So you can still work the glutes as long as they're covered?
No, you can work their glutes, you may expose them as long as it is legitimate massage therapy.
work.
Yes.
You can't just expose it because you just want to look at the butt.
Right, correct. Yeah, well, you wouldn't believe the complaints.
Okay.
So that's where thank you for asking that, because it comes up so often. And there is no, another question that comes up often is whether breast massage is prohibited in the state. Now, I know there is a legitimate, there is work, it's lymphatic work, or with women who have had breast cancer. There's certainly legitimate breast massage. It's not prohibited in Wisconsin. It is not prohibited. Of course, you want informed consent. Needs to be legitimate massage therapy. And then if we could go to up just a bit, are we on? Yeah, we're on to 21. And I think there's a link on 21. So as long as there's no sexual contact. And how is sexual contact? It's if it's intentional and touching for the purpose of sexual humiliation, degradation, arousal, or gratification. Of course, we don't do that. So that would not be allowed, or that would not be involved in any of your, if you're doing work with breast. So I hope this is clear. It's
Clear as mud.
Yeah.
okay. Clear as mud. Okay. I brought a stack of cards. So please contact me if you have any questions. All right. There was a public comment period, which was posted, I believe, in your e-blast.
Yes.
Yes.
That's over. There were no comments, but there was a group of people that came from a massage school in north of Milwaukee.
Grafton?
No, not Grafton, not Blue Sky. It's a newer school.
Oh.
At any rate, they came
Yes.
and made comments in person, which was
Agnes? Keegan?
Ramona, what's her school? At any rate.
Very good.
So this is still in the works.
Okay.
The public comment period is over, but certainly if you have any particular concerns, there are some updates to this, but I wouldn't say that they're major updates in this. So then the second reason I'm here is because we have, as I mentioned before, there's 7 people on the board, and we are now down to 4, unfortunately, because we had 5. There were 2 open positions, and 1 person is moving out of state. So I would like to encourage you to apply for a position on the board. You cannot be an officer in a professional association. So if you're on the board, unfortunately, you cannot. Because of appearance of conflict of interest. Even though in your heart of hearts, you're not conflicted, as I was not, but you can't be. You need to be a licensed massage therapist. You need to be in practice for 2 years. And
Is this the application?
we're going to the application, yeah. Yeah, thank you, thank you. And you get to the application through the governor's office, it's a drop down that one. Yeah, that was from here. Apply this from the main page.
Which is walker.wi.gov.
And you can also apply through, put the application, you can get a copy of the application through the Department of Safety and Professional Services, but you can do this online. This is much easier. But we work with the staff of the Department of DSPS about complaints that come in made by the public. All of the work that they do is complaint driven. They don't have like licensed police or anything like that. People that go around the state and find out who's in practice, who shouldn't be, or who's doing what they shouldn't do. It comes by complaint. And we have 2 big meetings a year, which are typically 3-4 hours. They can be attended by teleconference or in person. I always go down because I find teleconferencing frustrating. You know, when can I talk? When do I need to be quiet? When you interrupt each other, all that stuff.
And so they cover your mileage to that meeting as well, correct?
They cover your mileage. There's a per diem, $25 a day. And then in between the meetings, there are monthly screening panel meetings if there have been complaints that need to be advised on it. That actually is very interesting. There'll be a complaint come in and the legal staff looks at it. They start making inquiries of the people they contact by phone, people who made the written complaint, who it's being complained against. And then they talk to a member of the board who's assigned to that case, ask for their opinion. Then they draw something together, a proposal, I'll call it a proposal, and bring it to the board, the full board, and then we discuss it.
Ooh.
And so many interesting questions come up about the profession, practice questions. I will say that there is a large number of sexual boundary violations, unfortunately. And unfortunately, many of those therapists are male. I'm sorry to say, because I think it makes it more difficult for male therapists to do your work, but it is. So, at any rate, that's not right, but that's a different conversation. At any rate, that's primarily what we do, and our conversations are very interesting. I am happy to serve. I think it's a great thing. So I would encourage you to contact me if you have any questions, or go right to the website and complete the online application. Unless we start filling one out, this just gives you the name of our, we're the Massage Therapy and Bodywork Therapy Affiliated Credentialing Board. So you'll need that. You can't click on, it's not a link, but that's the official name of the board. The governor asks that you write an essay, 500 words or less. Not why you love his administration or anything like that. It's just how you see yourself helping, why you're qualified, basically. So that's it. The application itself, beyond the essay, it doesn't have to be 500 words, it can be less. But it can be just a summary of what you've done in the profession, your community service, if you have it. It doesn't have to be. So I would love to see someone from this room on the board. 2. We actually have 3 places. Oh, well, we have a public member space available as well. So my cards are on my table. I could walk around with them. I'll be glad to do that. So contact me about anything, any questions you have. And thank you.
Thank you, Betsy.